And so in that, I have become more and more sober about Christianity and about, am I really saved? And I did a video about this, why am I a Christian, and talking about how I struggled with becoming a Christian and trying to have that emotional response, and finally I realized it's not about an emotional response, it's about dedicating your life to God. And over the past couple of weeks, months maybe, I've really started to ask the question, what does it honestly, actually, by the Bible, what does it mean to God for us to be saved? What does that mean? And it's been really, really good for me to be sober about it, to look at the Bible and see, this is my lifeline, you know, this is what my eternity is based on, is how seriously I treat this book, how seriously I treat what's in this book and the God who made it. And I have seen so much of what's really important and what really isn't important over the last while, and it's been really good for me to see that. And I've also been, like I said, I was asking the question, what does it mean to be a Christian according to God? Not the world, not the TV preachers and all of the people that like to say, you know, just say the sinner's prayer and you're good to go. Doesn't matter how you live, just as long as you said those words. And I believe that's complete and utter bull. I hate that so much. And so I was thinking, okay, I feel safe in Christianity. I know now that I am saved, but what does it really mean to be saved, to be a Christian? And we like to quote the verse, honestly I don't know where it is found, I know it's in the New Testament, but that's all my brain knows about it. You know, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord, you are saved, essentially. And I heard a preacher talk about that verse, and he said what that literally meant at the time to the people who were reading this. And we have to remember, I mentioned this in my, you know, the Bible's not about you video, we take ourselves and we put ourselves in there, we put our times in the Bible, or we take a verse out and apply it to our lives. And you completely miss the fact that this was meant for someone in a specific time who read it in a specific situation, and it meant something to them. It doesn't have to mean something to me. It meant something to them. So what did it mean to them, and then how does that relate to me, essentially? So what this pastor said about it is that in that time, the Jews were dealing with intense persecution. And if they were, I think this is how it went, if they were out and they were talking to someone about Jesus, and a Roman overheard, or a Pharisee or whoever, and they said, are you saying that Jesus is the king, that Jesus is your Lord, essentially? And if they would confess with their mouth, if they would say, yes, I believe that Jesus is the king, that Jesus is the savior, they would be killed. So what it meant is you will die if you say this, but you will be saved. And we don't think about it like that. We think as long as we say, yep, I believe Jesus lived, that is not the same as believing in Jesus as your king and dedicating your life to him. And oh my goodness, we don't talk about Jesus as king. We talk about Jesus Christ. What does Christ mean? It means Messiah, the one sent from God, the anointed one, the king. It literally means Jesus the king. And when you start to see the king part of Jesus, which is all of Jesus, and then you go back and you see how, I did a video, oh my goodness, I'm just reminiscing about all my old videos. I did a video called The Last King, talking about Jesus as king, being the last of the Davidic line. And it's fascinating to look into that and see how it all started, how it went wrong, and how it dissolved more and more, until it all fell apart, and this promise that was made to David that, you know, from your seed will come, you know, the king. And when you come to the Old Testament, the end of it really seems like God forgot his promise, that you know, it didn't, the line had dissolved. Like, the line was still going in the sense that David's ancestors, not David's ancestors, the generations that came from David were continuing on, but there was no king. There was no one stepping up to be king until Jesus arrives, and then he's like, yeah, I'm the king. Jesus Christ meant Jesus king. He was taking his place as the king. And when you see Jesus from that perspective, and then you see Christianity from that perspective, what does it mean when someone is a king? And what does it mean for the people who he is claiming this to? Like, if he says, I'm the king, what do you do about that? And you start to see that it is not simply a matter of, I believe Jesus existed. What does that mean? No, it's not like that. What is that verse? That the demons know that God is real, like the demons believe and tremble, something like that. Guys, you'd think I never read my Bible. I just have a terrible memory with these kind of things. I don't, besides like John 3:16, I don't know any specific verses and chapters, so forgive me. But that verse literally says, guys, get serious about this. The demons know that God is real. I mean, they've seen him. Some of them have seen him. They know, and they're not saved because of it. There is a step that needs to go beyond that. Yes, first you acknowledge, yes, I believe Jesus lived on this earth and died for me, that he died for sinners as the king taking the place of his people, paying a debt that we could never repay. But it goes beyond just that. You cannot, that's not the period, that's the comma. And I dedicate my life to him. I do what he wants. I live as someone under a king, as someone who takes my commands from him. It's not just I believe. It's so much more than that. And when I see that and I understand what it means to dedicate my life to Jesus, to understand that he is my king, is to, as Greg Gilbert said, I'm going to attach 2 videos to this. They're 2 sermons that Greg Gilbert, he's a pastor in Louisville, Kentucky. If you have not been following me for long, you don't know that. If you have been, you know that, because I mentioned Greg a lot. I love him. I love his preaching because he really digs into it. And I'm going to attach 2 sermons that he did. They're video sermons you can actually watch, but you can also just listen, because that's all you need to do. And he talks about the whole story from God and sin, and then from Jesus to salvation. And in it, he was saying that to have faith in Jesus, to take him as your king, is to look at sin and declare war on it. Because Jesus declared war on sin. He died to cover sin. And that means that I can't just have a casual approach to sin. I can't just take what Jesus died for casually. It's if I'm with my king, I can't be with what he is against.